I'm just gonna stream it as well now.
Oh,
So
nice.
hopefully you should
Yeah,
see
I'm
that.
already in. Nice.
Okay, Sparta. So do you want to start? Okay. Hopefully it should be okay on the stream now as well. Let me just double check.
Danke fürs Muten, oder wer auch immer.
What?
Yep, looks fine.
Me sure, yeah. Oh shit, actually.
So in chess, you just want to get all your pieces in the middle, basically. That's the main thing, and in the beginning of the game. You could come on. You could come on to and observe it now if you wanted, Mogat, or you can just watch it in the stream.
I already turned off my stream.
Okay.
I'm too stupid to adjust that.
Man.
Nice.
But if you don't want to.
No, we can
It's not
go on
hard.
separate.
It's you can just. You could probably fix it really relatively fast.
I already turned it off.
So see here how I've kind of got my pawns in a diagonal line like this, and when they're in a diagonal line like that, it means they're all defending each other, so they're quite strong in that position.
I find the way weird you pronounce.
Yeah.
What pawns?
True. Pawns.
Sounds like porn.
Bist du eigentlich hier?
The same way of pronouncing it, pawn. Pawn, pawn. That's literally how you pronounce it. Pawn pushes. There's also forks in chess, so you can fork the king and the queen at the same time.
No.
Okay. I think I'm just gonna. So I could actually take here like this, en passant. So I take behind him. Do I want to do that? I guess so. Open up the king a bit. So you can see how all of his pieces are like still on the back, whereas mine are getting towards the middle, which is good for me, not great for him. But I could still, like, the problem is, like, I could so easily just do a massive blunder and, like, lose my queen and still lose the game. Okay. So that's going to win me a pawn. Actually, just going to take here. With my knight. I'm going to be wanting to do this if you're watching the stream next. So we're going to do that because of this. So then I can do this where it's an attack on the king through my rook. Call it a discovered attack. And then I'm also attacking his queen over here at the same time.
This is really bad for me.
Mm-hmm. So it just moves the king, but then I've got the queen. but he couldn't stop that. Yeah, let's just grab that. Could also, yeah, let's just grab it. Fella is moving his pawn, says Mogat in the chat. So yeah, this is a tactic that's called a discovered attack. I did a little bit of it in the last stream as well. So see how here, just before I move this knight, the rook is attacking the king, but if I move the knight out of the way, so by going like that, it's a discovered attack, which led to that. You could have taken my knight there with your bishop, but I guess I'm just going to come in here now with my knight, with my bishop, sorry, and attack your king further. You've got quite a limited number of moves you can do now. So you're going to go there. There's probably a checkmate in here somewhere. I'm just not good enough to know where it is. Guess I'll just get my knight out of the way. Let's. Okay, let's just get my queen out. So the main thing that's going on in this game at the moment is that his king is vulnerable, and it's kind of in not the right place where he would like it to be. So the main thing in this position is just to try and attack his king, from my perspective, and for Spartacus it's to try and get his king safe. Just gonna go here. Bring some more pieces in like this, I think. Get his king even more vulnerable. And then that should be, I think, checkmate there.
It is.
So he's going to have to move here with his king.
Yeah.
And then there. That's checkmate. GG.
Got demolished. GG.
I got 1 extra point at least. Yes.
What was my main mistake?
Your main. So let's go back and just have a look at the game. So the main mistakes. This first move isn't a bad move. I prefer to put it 2 spaces up, but the first move, yeah. So if you just press where on game, if you press this little like arrow, it's got a line next to it. If you click that, you go right to the beginning, yeah. Then you can press the next arrow and see the moves, yeah. So your first move wasn't a bad move. I usually like to put it in the middle, but you don't have to do that. I put mine in the middle, like you can see this, so 2 paces up. This bishop move wasn't great because then I can push this pawn up, which helps me get my pieces out, and it attacks your bishop at the same time. So it's like I'm getting a free what we call a development move, where I put my pawn here because I want to get maybe my light squared bishop. If you have a look at the stream, it might be easier to explain as well. So my light squared bishop.
I'm watching.
Mhm.
Wait, watch your live screen then.
Yeah, because then I can show you what I'm talking about as well. Can you see the stream?
But it's delayed.
Yeah. So this light squared bishop here, the one that I've been moving around, that one then can move out on this diagonal because I've moved this pawn. So I at this stage I'm starting to be able to get my pieces out. You want to get your pieces out, I want to get my pieces out. But because I can move my pawn up here and make your bishop basically move again, it means that I'm like having more free time to move my pieces out. So I'm moving my pieces out where you just keep moving the same piece again and again. And then again I just push.
That's the point.
Yeah. Then again I just push my pawn here so that I'm like further into your base. And then you're gonna have to move again. You come here with a check. But then again, I just move my pawn. So now this line of pawns is really strong because they all defend each other.
Yeah.
Because they attack diagonal. So I've got like quite a nice position whereas you've moved your bishop like 3 times. Whereas I've built up, like I haven't got any more pieces off the back row, but you'll see now it's way easier for me to get my pieces off the back row. So then the next couple moves, all I'm doing is I'm just putting my pieces in the middle. You go here, which was a mistake, because that pawn is undefended. So I just grabbed it with the bishop. Because it's undefended.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Yeah. So you probably should have moved something like, instead of doing that, you maybe should have moved your knight. So instead of this move, you probably should have maybe moved your knight here, just to get it into the middle. Or maybe try to do something. Because one of the reasons why this pawn here is so good, is it means that you can't develop your knight here now. Onto this square. Because then I'm going to take... So, oops, I've messed up the analysis of the game now. Let's go into game report like this. So yeah, that was probably like up until this point, it wasn't a mistake that you made. It was just like not the best play. But then this pawn here, that was a mistake or an inaccuracy. Then pushing up here said it was the best move. And then after that it was
the king aggression put me in trouble.
Yeah, so that was the mistakes early on, but then what became the real problem was that your king was vulnerable. So I managed to open up these lines towards your king. See how my king is in the bottom corner and it's really safe, whereas yours is not that safe. So it even says that in the score here. It says that I'm like 3.69 points ahead, equivalent. I'm only 1 point up, but because all my pieces are in the middle, and like look from this position, all of your pieces are still on the back row. And they're not really doing much. Whereas I've just got one more thing to develop, and then I'm going to be fully ready to finish the game. So then you pushed here. It says this was a mistake. The reason why this is a mistake is because your king's vulnerable in the middle. So I was happy you did that, because then I can take with the knight. Now your king's really vulnerable. So you pushed up here, but you need to get your king safe. So doing stuff like this isn't getting your king safe. So then I move my rook here to attack your king. And then you missed that I could then do this. So the main problem here now is just that your king is vulnerable, and then everything that I do is just to get your king, because all my pieces are in the middle. All your pieces, a lot of your pieces are still on the back row, and your king's in the middle, whereas mine's safe. So then the whole game was just about me trying to kill your king. Then, so then I was just getting it in a bad position. Yeah. Then I just attack your king.
Behind because yeah, that's so true. That's so true. I understand. Yeah. By the way, GG.
Yeah, GG. So what you need to do is you just like the main focus of the early game is just get all your pieces out and get your king safe. That's what you have to do.
Yeah.
So do you want to play Age of Empires?
Oh, I think I need to go now because
Okay, that's fine.
half past 11, and we can photograph the moment now, and we can continue that tomorrow. Otherwise, I cannot. Company of Hero tonight because
yeah, that's fine. Let's finish off the games next time then. Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for the game, by the way.
You're welcome.
See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.
Right, guys. It seems like we got some people in the chat. I guess we may as well play some extra chess.
Hey.
Hi. Hi. You right? Do you want to play me?
Sparta left.
Yeah, he
Do
left.
you
He
want,
left.
Do you want Bronze League Heroes commentary between me and Mogat?
What's that?
Chess? No, I don't play chess. I'm so bad.
Come on, Mogat, just play with me.
No, I don't want to
No,
play
no,
chess.
no.
It's too difficult.
No, look at Mogat. I did so bad yesterday. Just do it. We play chess, and fella commentates, and it's like in another channel, and Josh talks us.
True.
You know.
You're both gonna play bad. Let me just say that.
I know.
I mean, I don't know I don't know how good Danny is. Maybe Danny's like a pro.
I played yesterday with Fabian after your stream.
Oh, you played with Fabian. Okay, he's gonna
Yes,
slaughter
one
you,
match.
Mogat.
And I basically defeated myself.
Nice. Yeah, play. You two play. It'll be good. Mogat, you're way higher rated than him. You're rated 1,700,
Yeah, maybe
1,079.
it won't be as bad if... Okay, I'm gonna... Wait a second. I'm gonna... 15-10. There you go.
You want to commentate that chess match, fella?
Yes, yes.
Random versus type standard.
So what guys? What you need to do is you need to click play on live chess.
Yeah.
So where it says play, then click play a friend. Oh, you're playing already?
Go.
Okay, I'll hop in.
Yes.
Okay then, ladies and gentlemen. Right, let me hop into another chat so I don't distract you all.
Go away. I don't want to come.
Okay, bye.
I don't-
Right then, guys. So let's just go on here. So we're gonna just do a little bit of a commentary of Mogat versus DSS from the Adane community. And they're just playing a game of chess. Both players are quite inexperienced, I think. So I'll tell you to my best ability. Like, let me be honest, guys. I am not good at chess. Like, I'm better than probably like the average player, just because I've played the game and most people haven't. But I am in no way good at this game. But I'll give you my best commentary that I can. So far, this is a Grandmaster opening. Like, not even lying. This is what Grandmasters would easily do. So pawn to e4, pawn to e5. The basic idea behind that is to grab the center. Danny, DSS, has just gone here with the pawn to defend this pawn. So pawns attack diagonally. So he's defending this pawn here, which is fine, but he didn't necessarily need to do that because nothing was actually attacking this pawn at this point. I would have probably preferred to get one of my knights out because you don't really need to defend that pawn at that point. He's now got his knight out here, which is attacking this pawn. But Mogat is already defending this pawn over here. But so far, like, not a bad game. So far, like, this, you know, this is by no means a bad game of chess. Both players putting their pawns in the middle. Both players putting their minor pieces in the middle. You always want to get your minor pieces, like your knights and your bishops, out first before you get your queen out. The reason for that is that the queen can be attacked, and then because the queen is attacked, you got to defend her, and you basically lose time by doing that. So at the moment, it's a perfectly fine opening. Like, there is nothing wrong with this opening at the moment. Both players getting their minor pieces out. Both players have got pawns in the middle. It's not too shabby at the moment, if I'm being honest. The only thing is, I'm not going to be great at noticing, like, you know, like the big tactics and things like that. That obviously a lot of better chess players would. I like to watch. If you are interested in watching chess, I recommend watching Nakamura play. He's got a YouTube channel. He's a grandmaster. He's something like, I think he said that he was 4th in the world at Blitz chess, so that 5 minutes chess. And he played the finals against the world champion Magnus Carlsen in Blitz chess. Again, like, this is a very decent opening so far. Just developing their pieces towards the center. No major mistakes made so far. Hopefully they're both going to castle their kings as well. It's almost symmetrical at the moment. In fact, it is symmetrical. So all 4 knights are out, and a similar position here with the pawns. And again, he didn't necessarily need to put his pawn up here because this pawn is under threat from this knight. But then his knight is defending this pawn, so he wasn't under threat. So he's developed here. There is always a drawback to everything in chess. Every move has its own drawback. So the advantage of moving this pawn is it's going to defend this one. So this pawn defends this pawn because they attack forwards. But the problem here now for both players is that this bishop, it can't move from out of this square. So this is the only square that it can go to. He could potentially go up here and then put his bishop on this square. But it's not going to be great there because the pawns are blocking it. They're blocking these dark colours. So really the best places for these bishops would probably be here and here respectively. Whereas if, and actually that's, I thought that's what he did, but that's just, I can just pre-move apparently. Oh, I can do a little guess of what my guess is. I do guess that actually. I guess that he's probably going to go here. And then castle. At least that's what I would do in this situation. But basically, they just want to get their bishops off the back rank now as well. So yeah, if this pawn wasn't here, if he pushed it up maybe up here, then this bishop could come out, you know, to this square or to this square. Now he's moved his knight up here. So his knight's moved up here. The problem with this, it's not an awful move, but the problem with this is that he's moving the same piece twice. Generally, you don't want to move the same piece twice in the opening in chess because you want to get all of your pieces out. So the threat here is to take this, but even if he does take this, then the queen can just come here and in here and take back. So he's moved this knight up here. The advantage is that he's got it in more of a central position. So you can see his knight is right in the center now. But the drawback to that is like, well, he hasn't moved this bishop, so this bishop is still on the back. He hasn't moved this this bishop, so this bishop is still on the back. A better move probably would have maybe to go up here with the bishop, or maybe to go here with the bishop, so that he can get ready to castle, rather than moving the same piece twice. The response from Mogat should be pretty much like a calm development move, something like this. Moving his bishop, even moving his bishop here. Like even moving this bishop here wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. The knight could take it, but then he's going to have moved his knight 3 times in the opening. And he can always just take back with the queen like this. That is not my prediction move. He would not want to do that. So he's taken. Didn't have to take, but he's taken. Probably not the best move there because, again, now he's moved his piece twice. So, and also he's got this knight under threat now. So now the knight's going to have to move out of the way as well. So he's moved his knight here, and now you can see like now the knight's at the edge of the board, which is not a great position for the knight to be in. You'd much rather have your knight in the center of the board. So in that position, it's not great. Let me just double check that the stream is fine. Is it not working at the moment? Oh no, it seems fine. Oh no, we're all good. So he's pushed this pawn up here now to further attack this knight. Which is a good move, actually, because the knight's actually stuck now. So the knight can't go here, because it will be taken. The knight can't go here, because it will be taken. And the knight can't go here, because it will be taken. So from this position, he probably needs to put his knight over here. But again, all of that would have been avoided if he didn't take here. If he just calmly developed something else, then he would actually be winning. But at the moment, he's losing quite badly. Because he's just lost his knight. And he's not going to get anything for that knight. And that would actually be like an easy win in most scenarios. I feel like maybe we need to do some blitz chess. So he's taken ages now to look at this move and think, where's it gone wrong? What should I do? But he's just lost his piece. He's going to have to go somewhere. Or he could just not go anywhere and let him take it and then just continue to develop. So he's gone here to defend the knight, trying to get the pawn back. Not the best option. So the pawn's going to be taken, then take back here. And then his pawns on this side are going to be a bit messed up then. So take and take like this. This is what I predict will probably happen. Yeah, I feel like commentary should be blitz chess at least. Yeah, so he's taking the pawn now. He should take back. This file here is really, really weak for Mogat as well now. So you don't really want your pawns to be on the same file like this. That's not my prediction. You don't want the pawns to be on the same file like this because they're not defending each other. So like, for example, if he was to put his bishop up here, then this would be attacking this pawn. And the pawn can't be defended by another pawn. So let's see what Danny does now. He should probably like start to develop at this point. He's pushing his pawn up to try and attack this one. So these pawns are doubled as well, but it's not that big of an issue because he has got this pawn that he can move up here and defend, or this one that he can defend here as well. He's probably going to take here, and then he can take back with the knight. But he develops his bishop instead. Not a bad decision. I feel like what Mogat needs to do now, if he's got any chances of winning, is just start to really develop his pieces. But he's in such a bad situation at the moment. So he's attacking this pawn with this one. It's just said that he's like up nearly a queen. There might be some kind of tactic in here. Yeah, I think there was a tactic that he missed there. He's taking that pawn now. He's out of he's still way behind in terms of material because of this knight. I feel like Danny should probably take here just to open up the king a bit, but he needs to get his own king safe too. Like he needs to get his king out of the center of the board. These are the two things that you need to do every time in chess: is get your king out of the center and develop your pieces in the early game. Let me just do a little quick share of the stream in Discord in case anybody's interested in watching it too. Streamception. Yeah, I feel like 5 minutes chess or 1 minute chess will be better with this level of players. No offense, Danny and Mogat. So yeah, he's taking the pawn, which I figured he might. Not a bad move. He just needs to be careful about his own king as well, because his king is vulnerable here in the middle. I guess he needs to. He's going to just take back here, and he can take back with the pawn, with the knight. Intense game, guys. The other thing is here that now, so see how he's taken this pawn out of the way. His queen's actually opened up an attack on the bishop, so if he's not careful, he could lose the bishop. Now he's taken with the pawn, so he can no longer take this bishop because the queen is now defending it. So you can see the queen's kind of attacking this, and this other queen's kind of defending it, but they're both behind their own pawns. Well, after this little exchange of pawns, now the queen can attack, but now this pawn moves out of the way, now the other queen can defend. So you've got to be careful about these. They're called discovered attacks. So here, this move, when you move the pawn here, that is a discovered attack on the bishop. But then, it's not really called a discovered defend, but it's basically like a discovered defend as well, by moving this pawn out of the way. The only issue is here that this is a free pawn that he can just grab if he wants it. Although, it probably won't be a good idea to grab this pawn, because then they've got this move with the queen, where the knight here is then pinned to the king. So the knight can't move out of the way because the queen is pinning it to the king. Can you analyze it and say what's good and bad? Yeah, I'm trying to. Talk in the chat, Sparta. Yeah, Fabian, join in. Mogat says it's the worst chess match fella will have seen in his life. I can tell you that much. It wasn't, you know. It really wasn't. The beginning of the game, it wasn't too bad. Like decent moves. This wasn't the best move in the world. Again, like he needs to get his king safe. So he's putting his rook up here to try and attack this bishop, but it's not the best move in the world. He needs to get his king out of the center and then start to attack this king in the center. Let's have a look here. So he's attacking this pawn now, also defending the bishop. He's grabbed this here. That's a massive blunder because the queen can come in here and take this rook for free with check. So with that move, Danny's actually losing now. You can see on the side of the board here, the dark and the light. When it moves into the dark, it means that black is winning. When it moves into the white, it means white is winning. So you can see here, look, that white is winning. He's then just done a blunder, so an obvious mistake that loses you material. And look how much more better black is now. This is what I was talking about when we're talking about like comebacks in chess. Like this is one move, one blunder. Like white is ahead. But if the player ever makes a big mistake and makes a blunder, look, it's instantly way in favor of black now. As long as Mogat can see that this is a free rook and he can take it, then he is super duper winning now. And he does. Nice. So he's taking it. He also takes it with check. Mogat is now way ahead of Danny. So Danny was winning by quite a long way, but he's made one mistake. He didn't see that threat there of the queen to take the rook. And now it's actually Mogat who's winning. So take, and then take with check. He's also going to have to get out of check. A good way to do that might be to put the bishop here, because then it also brings a threat of attacking the queen. But having said that, the queen can just come and gobble this pawn up at the same time. So it's actually Danny now who's in a really difficult position. Mogat, though, still needs to castle his king. Like, castle your king, guys. You need to do it. You just saw in the game against Spartacus that, like, if you don't castle your king, then he's going to get eaten up almost in every game. Come to the chat, lads. So he's put his queen in the way. Not the best idea, because when you're behind in material, you don't want to trade. So let's have a look at this score here. Look, 5.3 ahead. He does this move and he's now 12.9 ahead. So like he is way ahead. And yeah, he's got that move as well. So this move here, look. This is not a pin. This is called a skewer. So in chess, if you attack something that's less important, and sorry, this is a pin. What am I talking about? This is a pin. So by putting this bishop here, it's a really good move. He spotted that tactic there. It means that he's attacking the queen. The queen can't move out of the way because then the king's going to be in check. So that means he's going to have to lose this queen by the black piece taking it like this. Now he's got one option to push his pawn here, which he'll probably do if he can see it. But that doesn't really solve the situation because that's blocked it for now. But then the bishop can just come in and take again, and then he's in exactly the same pin as before, if you can see that. So that's what I predict will probably happen. Let's see if that does happen. He's probably just realizing now, probably trying to move his queen around and being like, wait, what? Why is it not allowed to move? But it's actually it's an illegal move to move something so that you come into check. So next move, if he does something bizarre like this, next move is just going to be bishop take, and he's actually resigned because he's lost the queen. And Mogat with the extra points, 1,106. Nice. Hi, Fabian. So Mogat takes the victory.
Yes.
Nice.
Okay, time for the analysis.
That was a horrible game.
That game
It was-
slipped through your fingers, says chess.com. Okay, time for the analysis.
You know, it wasn't too bad. Like the first, I would say up to, let's have a look, up to move. I would say up to move 5, it was actually absolutely fine. Then you lost.
To move 5, it was the complete mirror.
Well, there's only 14 moves in the whole game, so about almost half the game was fine. And then you lost your knight.
Oh.
To a trap.
Yeah, that was stupid.
But then Danny, you just lost your
that
rook.
was totally planned, by the way. Absolutely, definitely.
And then Danny, you just lost your rook, and then you lost your queen, and that was a nice pin, Mogat, as well, to pin the queen to the king.
Yeah.
I was like, dang, I can really do something here, but I don't know. I tried to do something. I was like, yeah. And I mean, just come. Okay, look, turn 9 is like +10. I don't know what that means, but I was so.
But I feel that both of us lack to develop
really
pieces.
bad. Yeah, that's also true.
Yeah, the thing that you need to do, like, so let's if you go on the game analysis, or if you even just look at the stream, I'll give you a quick like little bit of advice. So first 2 moves are like grandmaster moves. Like you would easily find a grandmaster playing those first 2 moves.
I mean, that's
This pawn push wasn't the best move, but it wasn't a bad move by any stretch. The main mistake was actually the first what I would call probably an inaccuracy more than a mistake was actually when Danny pushed moved his knight onto d5. So when he moved his knight from c3 to d5, because you don't really want to move the same piece twice. Because if you move the same piece twice, that means, well, you're only developing one piece. Whereas what you should do is you should start to develop your other pieces, so you can get all of your pieces in the middle as quickly as you can. So that was actually a bad move from Danny, and you can actually see the score drop into Mogat's favor, not by a lot, but by a small amount. So Mogat, you were about 1/10 of a pawn's worth of material up when he did that move. However, you or even half a pawn, it's saying now, when he did that move.
That's what it means.
But then you made a mistake too by moving your piece twice, because you took back. So if I was saying at the time, maybe this bishop that's on c8, maybe you should probably just have calmly developed that. Maybe put it on g4 to attack this knight over here. Maybe even putting your other bishop onto e7, or maybe developing your queen or something like that. You won't want to put your queen on e7 because then you'd lose your queen. But you just need to stay focused and keep developing. And if your opponent keeps moving the same piece more than once, you can be like, well, okay, that's fine by me. I'm just going to get all my pieces out while you keep moving the same piece, and then you're going to be ahead. So that was probably the main mistake. But then like you missed out on, you lost to like a couple tactics. Like you just missed that, like Danny, you missed the pin of the queen, and you missed losing your rook and things like that.
Yeah, I didn't really see that. I mean, I was like trying to find something because I almost knew there has to be something there, because I could like check the king with the white bishop, attack the queen with the black bishop, but I wasn't. But I thought. Yeah, I don't know.
I know exactly what you mean. Sometimes you think you think to yourself like,
turn 10. It's like, it was really
You're
bad.
lagging.
I'm lagging.
Oh, okay.
I think I agree. Like a lot of the time, people think like, oh, I've got to do something in chess. I've got to do something. If I don't start doing something, then I'm playing badly. But actually, in that scenario, when you move that knight because you wanted to do something, you wanted to attack something, that was actually the wrong move to make. So just attacking something, it could actually make your position worse. And actually, in this case, kind of like in inverted comments, not doing anything, just developing your pieces, just getting your pieces out, is actually the better thing to do. So it's like just you build a stronger position, so you don't need to be like attacking all the time. If there's an attack available, then obviously you make that attack. You just do whatever the board tells you to do. If the board is telling you just play calmly and play normally, then you do that. If the board is saying like his queen can be taken for free, then obviously you take the queen for free and you don't worry about developing. So you just have to do whatever the board
Yeah.
tells you to do. The thing is, it's just
Okay.
like you just have to be able to know how to read the board. So you don't even play the player. You don't play the person like in StarCraft. You might think, oh, this guy likes to go for Banes or whatever, so I'm gonna make sure that I counter that. But in chess, it's like because there's no fog of war as well in chess. There's no like there's no scouting. You can see everything that they're doing, and they can see everything that you're doing. So you literally just play the board, whatever the board's telling you to do. It's like playing StarCraft if there was no fog of war, or a Dane if there was no fog of war. If you see your enemy's got cav and you see them building the stables, then you buy pikes because that's what you're supposed to do. It's just
Very
like,
interesting
you'll never
approach.
you'll never be surprised by someone doing something unless you've just not calculated it or you haven't realized a threat because you blundered. So yeah, basically that's what you do. You just play the board.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
interesting approach.
Still,
So yeah, I think like develop you and neither of you castled. Like I was so worried about your king sitting there in the middle.
yeah, I never got to it. So it's like, oh, it'd be nice if I could castle something, but I can't right now. There's still pieces in the bay. But yeah, true.
Jojo says he wants to play as well.
Who?
Yo-yo.
Oh yes, okay. I mean, I definitely want to play another game after those really bad.
Does anybody want to play 5 minutes against me or 1 minute?
Oh no, that's too stressful.
It's fun. It's fun for the stream as well. Fabian, come along.
Unless Mogat wants to play a rematch.
No, not a rematch.
Okay.
Ah, yeah.
Yo.
Hello.
Game of chess?
Of course.
Do you have a chess.com account or?
Yes, I just made one today.
Nice.
Okay, so we don't play the.
I'm not good at it, by the way, so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you saw my play. I was very much ahead, and then I blundered.
So you're not as invincible as in Edine.
No.
No.
I think I didn't play chess for like 3 years or so.
Did you?
Today I like played 2 games tomorrow and lost both of them.
Nice.
Okay, what's your name? My name is
I'm Yo-Yo614.
Yo-Yo614. Amazing.
Yes.
Do you wanna add me?
614.
Where do I add friends?
So home.
I did request.
I think
Just maybe.
friends maybe.
Yeah, you can go connect. It's connect then friends, and then.
What's your username, Jojo?
It's
614.
Yo-Yo614.
Yes.
I've got you. Okay, I sent the request.
I also sent the request.
I accepted your requests.
Nice.
Oh.
So do you want to play a game? Do you want to play maybe like what speed you want to do? Because obviously you can pick the different times. Do you want to do just like a normal
what
one?
times are there?
So you can just do a normal one, which is like 15 minutes, or you can do like a 5-minute game, or you can do a 1-minute game.
Let's do 15 minutes maybe.
Okay. So if you go on play, on the top left it says chess.com, then it says home, then it says play. If you click play and then go on live chess, then you'll be on live chess. Then I can invite you. Yeah, that's it. Now, guys, if you
Seems unbalanced if you play with him, good fella.
oh yeah, or you could play someone else. I don't mind, and I'll
Like I
observe
said,
it.
I want to play another match after this.
Okay, do you want to play?
Play against me, I guess.
Yeah, let's do that then.
There we go. So,
And then Mogat, you can do like some co-commentary and ask me some things and things like that.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Let's
So if you go now on play, so see at the top right where it says gameplay and tournaments. If you click on the play tab, oh, you're already playing. Sorry, Mogat. If you just go on if you just go to the bottom where it says where there's the speech bubble, the binoculars, and the friends list. Can you see that? Yeah. Then if you just double click where on their name where it says that they're playing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then you'll
okay,
join.
yeah, I'm
Can you
in
see it?
the
Yeah.
Just did that, yeah.
Let's go into another chat. Yeah.
Let's join another voice chat, you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I actually have a friend that loves to play chess,
Mhm.
like a real life friend,
Mhm.
and he's gotten very good at it. And he beat me up recently.
He's probably better than me.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. He was just very good.
So we can see at the moment this is a grandmaster opening. Like there's absolutely nothing wrong with this, and you would see grandmasters play this style all the time and this response.
But what reason is behind?
So let's look at the first move first, right? So you start, just click you see the little back arrow.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you click the one with a line next to it, that brings you right back to the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just look at this board and look at all of the pieces on the board. All of the pieces on the board are not in a good position because look at the bishops. They are blocked by the pawns. They can't move. Yeah?
Yeah.
They're not attacking anything. The queen is also completely blocked and not attacking anything. The knights have only got 2 squares that they can move to. Yeah, because they're blocked by everything else. And they're in the corner of the board, so they can't go like off the board. They've only got a certain number of squares that they're controlling. So if you look at the knight on B1, it's currently attacking the square A3. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's attacking the square C3. And it's attacking the square D2 at the start of the game. Yeah. So the pieces at the start are pretty rubbish. Like they don't do a lot. They don't control many squares. They don't attack very much. So this first move, pawn to E4, that puts your pawn in the middle. So your pawn is now attacking the squares D5 and F5. So it controls those two squares. So he's not going to want to put something on F5 or D5. He's not going to want to put like a bishop or a knight there because your pawn's controlling those squares. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's kind of like controlling those squares. So that part of the board is like being controlled by white. Yeah, so that's a reason why that's a good move to do. And it's kind of like it's in the middle as well. Those squares are in the middle of the board that he's controlling.
But the reason behind either moving your horse, or what's the word for it?
Knight.
Moving the knight defensively or offensively.
You want to put it in the middle because when it's in the middle, it means that if it needs to be defensive, it can quickly jump to any side of the board. So if it needs to be defensive on one side, it can jump over there. But if it needs to be offensive on the other side, well, because it's in the middle, it can jump over there as well. If it's on the edge of the board, well, it's going to have to do like 2 or 3 hops to get to the other side. Does that make sense? So you're not putting your pieces thinking, I need to be offensive. You're not putting your pieces thinking, I need to be defensive. You're just putting your pieces like in the best possible places that they can be so that as the game develops, if you need it to be offensive or if you need it to be defensive, then you can just quickly make it be any of those things because it's right in the middle. Does that make sense? So you're just giving yourself like the best opportunities by putting them in the middle.
Would you put both knights in the middle?
Yeah, you want to put everything towards the middle or attack in the middle. Just because who controls the middle usually controls the flow of the game. If all of my opponent's pieces are off to the side of the board and all mine are in the middle, then I can quickly go anywhere I want to and I'm controlling so much more of the board. Like look at the bishop in the starting position. It controls 2 diagonal lines. So if you look at the bishop on F1, it controls the square on G2 and on H3. Then it controls the other diagonal that goes E2, D3, C4, B5, and A6. Yeah. But if it's in the middle of the board, if it was to be on the square D5, then all of a sudden it's got 4 diagonals that it's controlling. So it can attack and defend way more of the board. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So just to look back at these moves again. So e4 in the middle, he wants to control the middle so he can get his pieces there and he can stop his enemy's pieces going there. The other thing that e4 move does is it allows the bishop then to move out across this diagonal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the queen to move out along the other diagonal if she wants to. So all of a sudden it's freed up your pieces to be developed. Okay. Then the response to that, e5, which was the next move, where he moves the black piece, the black pawn in the same position, is just doing exactly the same thing. It's freeing the bishop and the queen up, and it's contesting the middle. So it's like, okay, you want the middle, well, so do I. So I'm going to fight for it by putting my pawn there too. Yeah. Then knight f3, it gets it off the back rank. It's getting ready for the king to castle, which is good because you want your king to be safe. It's also attacking the center, so it's attacking this pawn on e5 with the knight, and it's also controlling the square d4 because it's putting pressure on that because it can move there. It's actually attacking that. If anything goes on that square, then it can take it if it wants to. Yeah. Then this response to put the knight on c6, well, again, he's putting it towards the middle, which is good. He's controlling the middle, and he's also defending that pawn that was attacked. So now he can't take with the knight because it's going to take back.
What if he went for the same mirror move, attacking the pawn?
Well then, so let's say that the knight goes with the mirror move onto f6. Well then, the knight can actually take the pawn on e5. The other knight can then take back on e4. But then the queen can come in and it can cause some problems because the king, the black king, is then open to attack. I'll have to show it to you later because it's difficult to explain without showing you the moves. But basically, it's not a good idea. Sometimes mirror moves aren't a bad idea, but this time it wasn't a great idea. The next move then, bishop to b5 here, is actually also a grandmaster move. This is called the Roy Lopez opening. So he's putting pressure on this knight here. And remember where I said that this knight was defending this pawn? So by putting the bishop to attack this knight, it's actually putting indirect pressure on the pawn. Because if I take the knight, then all of a sudden there's nothing defending that pawn anymore and I can come grab it.
You would trade it.
You can. It actually turns out that there's a little trick that black's got up its sleeve that even if that happens, it can still win it back. Which again, I'll just have to show you. It's just like some theory that you have to know. But yeah, that's the idea behind putting the bishop there. If you can defend your pawn with white, then the threat is real. But there's a little trick that black can do. So let's say the bishop took the knight, then the knight took the pawn. There's a little trick with the queen that black can use to get the pawn back. So you wouldn't actually want to trade. But later on, you could trade and win. So the next few moves, again, like not bad moves at all. Like playing pawns, playing into the center. He's traded the bishop. I'm on move 6 now. The knight then takes that pawn. So he's done exactly what I just said. Where he's removed that defender, that knight. And then he's taken it because nothing's defending it anymore. Then he's moved his queen up here. Which isn't actually the trick that I was talking about. He's then moved his pawn up to defend his knight. So the queen's attacking the knight. But the pawn's now defending the knight. So the queen's not going to want to take. Because then he can just take back. Yeah. So he is actually a pawn up after that little exchange. So black didn't use that little trick that I was talking about to get the pawn back.
Which would be the trick?
So basically, so if you go back to move 3, where it's bishop to b5.
B5.
I'm just at the start of bishop, just at the start of move 3.
Okay, yeah.
If the bishop if he does something else like develop his knight onto f6, and then the bishop takes, well, you can take with that pawn that's in front of the queen.
Yeah.
And then when you take with the pawn that's in front of the queen, then you can put and then the knight takes the pawn because he's just got rid of that knight.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? You can then put your queen on d4 and you attack the knight and the pawn at the same time, and there's no way to defend both.
Okay.
But because he pushed that, see the d pawn, because he pushed it up 2 spaces on move 3, so he did d5 on move 3.
Yeah.
So move 3 is bishop b5, then d5 with the pawn. Well, now when he takes
Yeah.
with the bishop, he can't take with that pawn anymore because he's just pushed it up. So he can't do that same trick where he moves the queen in because it's being blocked by his own pawn. Does that make sense? Because he had
Okay,
to
yeah.
he had to take with the other pawn, and that trick's no longer available. That's why he managed to win that pawn. Although the players probably don't realize about that trick. But if
That's
if he did, it's so much easier just to show you the moves to see what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But it's quite a common thing because in chess you have certain openings. The opening that they did, the Roy Lopez, is probably like the most common opening out of all openings. And that probably like the Sicilian and the Queen's Gambit are the most common openings. So those kind of like little tricks, you see them all the time. So
Yeah,
people
because
know about those tricks because they play the openings like 100 times. So they know all the little opening tricks like that. Whereas at this level, which you guys are on at the moment, you don't know about those tricks. So even if you tried to, even if you did the wrong thing and you missed out on the trick, then it probably will still work out for you because your enemy won't know what the theory is either. It's a bit like you know, like
the current
like for example, to relate it to StarCraft. Like I'm assuming, I don't know, but I'm assuming that that Ghost Rush that you did is not optimal.
depends on how good you are.
Or okay, let's say this is a less good example because it's not as clear as this. There are cheeses like Cannon Rushes, but let's just say Cannon Rush. Like Cannon Rush is not good, but it's only not good if you know how to counter it. If you don't know how to counter it, it's OP. So it's like that in
I
chess.
understand what you mean. The thing is, in StarCraft, it's all micro-dependent. So you can
Yeah.
have the worst strategy on paper.
Yeah.
You can execute it that well that you beat everything else.
Well, this is true in chess as well. There's the Grandmaster Magnus Carlsen, who's the world champion. He goes into tournaments and basically trolls people. Like he goes into a tournament and he just plays like rubbish starting moves. Like he might just like, let's say for example the starting move, he develops his knight. Then they do something normal like move their pawn. Then he just puts his knight back where it came from. Then he'll do that like 3 times, then start playing. And because he's so good and because he's really good at like tactics, which is like the little skills, he wins anyway against really good players.
Wow, okay. Sick. Amazing.
So yeah, there is still that. There is kind of it's not micro, but see here his bishop is hanging. So this bishop on d2 can take this bishop on b4 for free. But then the queen the knight on e4 is also hanging and the queen can take it and she's going to take it with check because the king's going to be in check then.
So it's better for DSS at the moment.
At the moment, DSS is winning, yes, because he's got 2 minor pieces. He's got 2 of Jojo's minor pieces. So Jojo's lost a bishop and a knight, whereas DSS has lost just 2 pawns for that. So Jojo's lost 1 pawn, 1 bishop, 1 knight. DSS has lost 3 pawns and 1 knight. But you'd much rather have taken your enemy's piece and lose 2 pawns because the pieces can do so much more than the pawns, at least in the earlier mid game. Later on, the pawns could actually be even more powerful if they get past pawns. And the thing with chess as well is like everything is just so dependent on the situation. Like it could be that you're behind a queen and a rook and a knight. But if you've just checkmated your enemy's king, it doesn't matter. You've won.
Yeah.
Everything depends on the situation. But you can
I usually always, if I'm behind, I try to get a series of checks in, and then try to like profit from that situation. Do you agree on that strategy?
Again, it depends. It literally depends. Like if the checks are doing something important and they're making your position better, then yes, it's a good idea. If it's checking for the sake of it, then you should probably try and look to see if there's anything better that you can do. And then the other thing to consider is as well, doing all those checks, it might actually make your position worse. Just because you're doing an attack, it doesn't mean that you're doing better. a lot of the time people would like do an attack, like I need to do something, I need to attack, but it doesn't necessarily make your position better just by attacking. Like in StarCraft as well, isn't it? Like if you're behind and you launch a really quick attack when you're not supposed to, then you're clearly going to lose.
Did you watch my 1v1 earlier?
In StarCraft?
Yeah.
Yeah. With the ghosts. It was good.
Yeah.
I didn't know what you were doing. I didn't know what you were doing. I didn't understand it, but yeah, it was good.
But I mean, the reason I'm bringing this up, I think I was behind. I was feeling behind. Then I decided to not attack with my army, but just max out and wait until he attacks me.
Yeah.
So maybe that's similar to here.
Well, the thing is with chess is you don't gain anything over time, so you can't really like max out. It's weird because you start with the most stuff and then it gets less and less. So have a look at this move here. So he's attacking. He's worried about his knight on e4 being attacked by the queen and the bishop. So he's moved his queen onto f3 to defend the knight, thinking that he's defending it, but he's actually not defending it, because if you look at the queen's attacking this knight, and also the bishop behind her is also attacking the knight. So he's actually got two attackers on this one knight, and by moving the queen here, it's only one defender that he's defending with. So he thinks that he's gone and defended his knight, but he's actually not. The queen can come in and take the knight with check. He's probably then going to take the queen, but then the bishop is going to take the queen back, and he's going to be up a knight in that little exchange. What he could have done instead is he could have pushed his pawn from f2 to f3. So if he'd pushed that pawn there to defend the knight, then the queen would not want to take the knight, because you can take back with the pawn, and you're going to lose your queen for a knight. Whereas because the thing that's defending this knight is the high value queen, and you take with an equal value queen, you don't mind if you lose your queen in that little trade, because you're going to gain his queen in the trade. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
So sometimes that's why, even though the queen's a powerful piece, it's not always the best piece to use, because if you defend with the queen, it might be that you have to give up your queen if you're actually going to attack with it, because it's such a high value piece. Like you've got to be careful. It's like okay, you're defending with the queen, but if I take it, are you going to give up your queen? You're not, are you? So it's like, it's not always the best thing to defend with. The queen's not always the best thing to attack with either, because if you bring your queen out early, the minor pieces can attack it, and then it has to move out the way. So there's situations where if you get your queen out too early, then your opponent starts bringing out all of his pieces whilst attacking your queen. So he starts to bring all of his pieces out while you're just constantly moving your queen around the board. And then before you know it, all of his pieces are out and you've only got your queen out and you've had to move her like 3 or 4 times. So your opponent's got a big lead in development. So say here, he's taken the knight with check. And now Jojo's thinking, oh shit, I thought I had that defended. But if I take, then the bishop's just going to take. Now he's going to be 2 pieces up. The only thing is his bishop here on d2 is also attacking his bishop over here. So now he attacks with check and he takes back. What he should do now is this bishop on d2 is take here on b4, because that bishop is undefended too. But even in that scenario, Danny's way ahead here.
Yeah, so actually he came out. Yeah, exactly. So now it's even in this little exchange, right?
Yeah. That in that little exchange. But don't forget, he was up a piece anyway before all of that little exchange. And when you're ahead of material, you actually want to trade down your pieces. So you want to get rid of the queen. You want to get rid of the pieces, because your advantage of let's say you're up a knight. If you've got an extra knight in the context of a queen being on the board, both rooks being on the board, all the other pieces being on the board, and you've just won your knight, well then your knight's like percentage wise isn't that powerful, because it's like your army, by being a knight up, is like, you know, like what, 15% more powerful, let's say, than your enemy's army. But if you get rid of if you get rid of all the queens, if you even can get rid of all the rooks and all the other minor pieces, and then it's literally just your knight versus no pieces of your enemy, then all of a sudden your knight is like crazy super strong.
Yeah.
So you always want to trade your pieces down when you're ahead, because it makes your piece that you're ahead on relatively more powerful.
So what would you do now as Yo-Yo? I would think just castling, right? That's what I would do now.
Yeah, you could castle. The only thing is like because it's getting towards the end of the game. So what he needs to do is he needs to defend. See this pawn on G2. This is the current biggest threat. This pawn on G2 is threatened, so he's castled, which is decent. The pawn on G2 was threatened by the bishop, and if he didn't do anything about that piece, then he would have lost it. The only thing about castling is that in the end game, so in chess, the terminology is the opening, which is like the early game. Then there's the mid game, and then there's the end game. So it's actually called the EG in chess, which is a bit confusing because in a Dane we say EG for early game, but EG in chess is end game. The end game is when the queens are traded off the board, and there's not that many pieces and rooks left. So this is basically the end game now because there's only there's one piece for Jojo and two pieces for Danny, two minor pieces, and then the rooks. There's no queens, so there's few pieces on the board. In the end game, instead of wanting to have your king safe at the edge of the board, you actually want to have him like being quite active and actually doing stuff because the king's the most important piece. So when there's lots of stuff on the board, you need to protect it from the queen and all the other pieces that are going to come flying in to try and kill it. Because if you lose it, then you've lost the whole game. But in the end game, when there's not a lot of pieces there, well, don't forget, the king can also take stuff. The king's actually quite a powerful piece. It's not as powerful as the queen, but the king is one of the powerfuler pieces because it can go in any direction. It's just that it's only one space. So actually in the endgame, when there's not a lot of pieces left, you actually want to use your king to fight. And that's one key sign of transitioning from the mid game, where there's lots of stuff and the king being safe is the most important thing. One of the key signs that you've gone into the end game is that the kings, instead of being at the edge of the board, people start to bring their kings towards the middle of the board and start to fight each other.
So you would have not castled in that scenario.
I probably still would, but I would have castled way earlier. That's the thing. But in that scenario, I might have still castled just because the castle, it still defended that G2 pawn, and there are still, from Jojo's point of view, there are still two enemy pieces on the board, enemy minor pieces, the bishop and the knight, and there's still two rooks, so there still is quite a lot of threats to the king. But at some point, I'm going to want to think about getting my king out.
So then, as DSS, you would not castle. Is that correct? Because there's no minor pieces.
I would. Well, he actually can't castle now because he's moved his king. So he moved his king. I think he meant to castle, but you need to move it 2 spaces to castle. He moved it just 1, and then once you move the king, you can't castle anymore. But I probably wouldn't castle with DSS in this situation anyway. Like I might still, but the thing is, like I would have castled ages ago anyway. And so he's taking this pawn now. So this pawn was under threat that he missed as well from this rook. But look at the knight on G8 for Danny. It hasn't moved in the entire game. And look at the rook on H8 as well. It hasn't moved for the entire game. So although he's up a piece, this piece is doing literally nothing. So he may as well not have it. And this rook's even worse. The rook can't move, and it can't move unless it moves something. The knight's going to have to move before the rook can become active too. Yeah. So these two pieces, although he's ahead on material, he's not actually using the pieces that he is ahead on. But the same could be said for Jojo as well, because his rook is on A1, not doing a lot. His other rook's on F1, not doing a lot. This rook here for Danny on B2 is way better because it's it's on the second rank and it's threatening things. So now he's finally developed this knight, and now the rook's got more space to come out. So he maybe might want to take his rook from H8 to E8, so he can start to attack. See how this file, it's called, this column. See how this file has got. So the file is like the up and down column, and they're labeled. So A, B, C, D, E. See the E file. There's no pawns on this E file for either player.
Yeah.
So rooks are good on open files because if you look at the rook being on E8, then it attacks all the way down the E file. Whereas on H8, it's not really attacking anything. It's just attacking along the 8th rank. So the rows are called ranks. So this back
File
rank,
and ranks.
yeah.
Okay.
So this back rank, this eighth rank, it's attacking this area, but it's not doing anything on the files. So if he was to move it to E8, it would then be attacking both the file and still defending the 8th rank, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
His rook,
Yeah.
one of the reasons why his rook is so good on B2 is because it's on an open file. So it's controlling the whole B file. And it's also on the 2nd rank, right in the middle of Jojo's camp. So he's threatening pawns.
So do you agree with this move?
He's pushing the bishop away, but he's also made this pawn on G2 a little bit more vulnerable, because see how this pawn on F2 was being defended by his own rook,
Yeah.
but then this pawn on G2 is only defended by the king, and he's got a rook on this file. So it's not like a terrible move, but
okay.
but it's not great. But he hasn't really got a lot of moves. So what I would want to do is I'd want to get my rooks into the action. If I was
So
Jojo.
move the left rook one space to the right.
But if you do that, then his bishop is there covering that square. See the bishop on E4? It's covering that square. So if I was to put my rook on B1, then the bishop would just take it on B1.
No, I mean on E1.
So move from A1 to E1
Move
with the
from-
rook.
No, the left one. Maybe I think we're looking at different sides of the board. Black is for me on the bottom.
Oh, okay. Let
move
me. I think I can. Yeah, I'll just switch my board around then. Oh, so
Yeah.
the one on F1, yeah, you could do that. So put it onto E1.
Put it on this big file you were
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah, to get control over that. But there is a problem here with Jojo's rook. Sorry, Danny's rook being on this rank. The rooks are, you always really want to put them on this rank. So you'll notice that the pawns often end up being on this rank because they haven't moved since the beginning of the game, which is not because the players aren't very good. It's because that's what always happens. You always tend to have the pawns being here because you don't often move the pawns until like really late on. So you always want to have your rooks kind of on here if you can. And what he can do now,
enemy rank.
yeah,
So to say.
yeah. So it's kind of like right in the middle of their camp, and it's going to make it difficult. So see this rook on A1 now. He's defending this pawn on A2. So if he ever moves that rook out of the way, then the rook can take the pawn. So he's moved here to threaten the bishop, but again, it's almost a bit like let me. What he's thinking now is let me do something. Let me attack this piece, so that I'm doing something. But you have to think, right? I attack this. So in chess you need to calculate quite a lot, and he needs to calculate. Right, I attack this bishop, then what's he gonna do? And you have to assume that your enemy is going to do the best move. And he's basically just going to move it out of the way. And then you've got to think, well, what am I going to do now that he's moved it out of the way? So you can't just think like one move. You can't just think like, right, I'm going to attack your piece and hopefully you're not going to see it and then you're just going to lose it. You have to think like, right, I'm going to do this. Then what's his options? Then after those options, then what are my options after that? And then if you can, like, you can calculate like 5 or 6 moves ahead. It's just hard.
Which move would you have preferred instead of attacking this bishop?
I would say get your rook onto the open file, onto the E file. But he's in such a bad position at the moment that even doing that isn't really going to help. Like he's just in a very bad situation with this rook being on this second rank here. It's bad. So see here now because Jojo didn't do Danny didn't move it into the best place ever. He's put it here. He's then attacked this, and now he's competing for the E file, just kind of by coincidence. And then almost by coincidence again, Danny's now also competing for the E file because he just wants to defend his bishop.
And he actually won the E file that way.
Yeah, well, they're competing for it now. But when the bishop moves,
Yeah.
then somebody's going to get it.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
So that's probably what I would do in that situation. But being a piece down here is basically like in a. I want to say in one of my games, but I would probably just fuck up and lose everything. But in definitely in a Grandmaster game, this position for Danny, it's 1. Like it's just a 1 position. They would just call that, like a Grandmaster would just give in here.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Like even me at my level, as long as I don't fuck up and I don't blunder, if I'm 1 pawn ahead, I can usually win. Just by being 1 pawn ahead.
But how do grandmasters win then?
So they just know, like they can see how the position is going to develop. So it's like, well, I'm in this position, and then that position is going to develop into this one. One of the best ways to learn chess is to actually learn the. He's got a discover check here. Look, so if he moves his bishop out of the way, he's going to open up the attack of this rook on b1 to the king. So it would actually be check by moving that bishop. So he can basically choose wherever he wants this bishop to go. But unfortunately, he hasn't got anything to attack at the same time. So it's not super good. But he could move the bishop out the way, give a check. Then the king's gonna have to move. He could then take this rook on e1. So he's checked here.
He could have actually grabbed the pawn, right?
He
couldn't. No.
If he grabbed that pawn, then the king would just move out of check, but then take it. Yeah. So now he's in check. So he has to move his king out of check. King's probably going to go back to f1. No, he can't go into f1 because it's blocked there. He's going to have to go either to g1 or to g3. Then a good idea would be then for the black rook to take this white one on e1. He would then have to take back with his rook. And then this pawn on a2 would then be undefended for the rook to take it. If you see what I'm saying. Hopefully he's going to do that. So now if the rook takes on e1, which he might not do.
Pawn is precious in this scenario.
They're always precious. If you're down 1 pawn and you've got nothing to show for it, and you're playing a Grandmaster, you'll lose 100% of the game.
Okay.
Like you have to have some kind of compensation for losing a pawn, otherwise you've just lost the game. So every piece is precious. But the thing is, like, that doesn't mean that the pawn is the most important thing, or even having the pieces is the most important thing. Because you can lose a pawn, but if you've lost your pawn, which means that you've got 2 rooks on an open file, or if you've lost a pawn and that means that you've trapped a bishop or something like that, then obviously you'd want to lose the pawn. So it all depends on the scenario. But if you lose the pawn and you've got nothing to show for it, then that's really bad. Here Danny's got a nice check. If he moves his rooks, there we go. We moved it here onto g1. This is why the rooks are good when they're combined together on the same rank. Yeah. So this is actually really good for him to be on the second rank. And it's trapped the king on the back rank for Jojo. He's checked. Now wherever he's going to move, he can come in and check again. So if he moves to f1, the rook's going to come in onto f2, and that would be checkmate. Oh, yeah, he can only move on to h1. So he's going to have to move on to h1. The rook's going to then take again with check and get another pawn, and then it'll be checkmate on the next move after that. So he's going to go, if he knows what he's doing, he's going to go rook to h2, check. He's going to have to move back to g1. Then the other rook comes into g2, and then that's checkmate.
And okay, yeah, I see.
So let's see if he realizes that he can do the checkmate here. So this rook now has got to come to g2, and there we go, checkmate. And he got 192 points from that game. Oh my god! Do you know how much I would kill to get 192 points from like 50 games?
Holy shit!
192 points. My god.
Stressful. Yeah, it's probably because I'm new, right?
Yeah.
So you will probably get more points.
Yeah, definitely. That was a really good game, though, guys. You know these rooks on the second rank, so the second like row, it's really good to use those together like that. So to have both of your rooks on the second rank, that's like really, really good play to do that. I don't know if that was intentional or if it just happened by coincidence.
The rook in the second rank? You mean like?
So you know how your rooks were on the row, rank, right? Yeah, on the row in front of the king.
Yeah, that was like, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, that's like a really good idea.
Very nice, yeah. Oh boy, I wanted, by the way. Did you see that amazing king move?
Which one? Oh, the castle. You tried to castle. Yeah, I saw
I
that.
tried to. I was like, I think I'm gonna castle, and I'm like, no. I decided otherwise.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to put the king back to his original position, so
Oh,
then
no.
I would do another move. And then I did the
So it was a
king move, and
misclick.
it took me like 10 seconds to realize. I was like, wait, what just happened? Did I make a move? Did I not make a move?
Damn it.
Frustrating.
Oh boy. Man.
No, but it was a good game.
Nice. I hope you streamed it because I won.
Yeah, we did.
So it's nice.
We're still streaming now.
Nice. I think I think you're able to hear that I'm quite happy about this.
Yeah, it was a good win.
Null login has been detected. No, my game.
Danny OP.
What? Stupid chess. Okay. Let's see. Oh no, so let's see. Game report.
Okay, guys, I'm going to go sleep now. I'm tired.
Okay.
Okay. Sure.
I think I'll probably end my stream there as well.
Yeah, I mean I don't want to go to bed.
Very nice
again.
analysis.
End on a high note for Danny.
Yeah, maybe I will watch the video.
Yeah.
Then I can see the amazing analysis.
Nice.
Okay then, guys. See you.
Okay, yeah. Thank you for joining stream. Goodbye.